This little girl is an absolutely amazing animal because of the really great story that she has, not necessarily as one of my animals, but what she is in general. This is Hopi. Hopi is our female Louisiana pine snake. So, for all of the non-colubrid people out there, the Louisiana pine snake is the most endangered and the rarest snake in the United States. There's another one that's a actual racer on an island that is technically the rarest snake in North America. The Louisiana pine snake is the rarest snake in the United States. And then also in there is the eastern indigo, the black pine snake, and then a couple rattlesnakes are starting to get up there now too, unfortunately. Now, Hopi is an absolutely amazing snake. So anyone who's been following me for quite some time knows that I absolutely adore all of the species in the genus Pituophis, which belongs to the bulls, gophers, and pine snakes. The Louisiana pine snake is their own species, Pituophis ruthveni. They have been their own separate species away from all of the other pines and gophers for quite some time. These guys are found almost exclusively, historically, their range went out a little bit more. These guys are found very exclusively in Louisiana and very specific parishes. I think there might be one outside of the state of Louisiana, but very, very small little pieces. And that is because these guys can only live and thrive in very specific old growth, long leaf pine forests. Those forests require fire to rejuvenate, so in areas where there is a lot of fire mitigation because of human habitation, doesn't really get a whole lot of regrowth in the forest, as well as logging companies. Those longleaf pine forests were chopped down quite some time ago, and they take years and years, we're talking multiple decades, to really regrow and become good, suitable habitat for these guys. So now there are quite a few different conservation efforts on there, mostly being headed up by the Orient Society, as well as different zoos like the Tennessee Zoo in Memphis, things like that. But the big problem with these is that these different habitats that these guys occupy in are very fragmented. So even though now there are actual little isolated locations that are protected, where there isn't logging, where these guys aren't hopefully being collected in the wild, and they're actually being able to establish some decent habitat and population, they're very spread apart. So you end up having issues to where either very small populations are starting to inbreed, or there aren't breeding at all because a population needs to be able to spread to other ones. Individuals need to spread to other populations. And so, is the issue with that. But there are some really great conservative efforts out there for people buying back private land from individuals, from companies, and starting to hopefully have a little bit of conjoining areas for those fragmented habitats. Now, let's actually talk about Hopi, because that's the really cool part about the Louisiana pine snake. Every single Louisiana pine snake can essentially, in captivity, can trace their lineage back to one of three places: Vandervetten, Lasik, and then the Memphis Zoo in Tennessee. Hopi here is actually a cross between a Lasik line and a Vandervetten line, so that's really, really cool. She's a nice little outcross. And then the male that we have, who doesn't have a name, mostly because he's a jerk butt, and I haven't officially committed to a name for him yet, is just a straight Lasik line. So essentially this would be a Vandervetten outcross to a Lasik lineage. So a little bit of genetic diversity out there. But there are some purists out there that may or not be super on board with that. But as long as we're keeping these pure lineage lines and these pure animals, then that's kind of what we want. This is kind of harkening back to that invisible arc that I've talked about in a number of videos, where, if the most unfortunate thing happens and we really kind of lose these guys in the wild, then at least we will have populations in captivity, both in the private sector as well as in zoological and more professional facilities, I should say, that hopefully either they can maintain in captivity long enough so that we have them for the future, for our children and all of that jazz, or eventually, if they do have good sustainable habitat, for them to be re-released. And there has actually been quite a bit of success in re-releasing these animals out to the wild. Now, this little girl here, after consulting with not only the breeder that I got her from, but from other Louisiana pine snake breeders, they confirmed that I should wait at least 1 more year before trying to breed her. These guys have some of the largest colubrid eggs in the world. And so because of that, they have very small clutches, and they need to have some nice, good body size to accommodate that. And when you look at Hopi here, you can see she's a good sized snake. She's nice, and she's not chunky by any means, but she's a very robust snake. Not super long like a lot of the bulls and the gophers. The Louisiana pine snake is usually around that 4-foot range. And, you know, again, let's see, if I back up here, you can see she's about 4 feet long. And so that's what we're kind of hoping for, is that we're going to give her one more year, and then we're going to try to reproduce her and breed her. But this year, this little jerk butt, actually on our shared birthday, dropped infertile eggs. So evidently I'm taking care of her well enough to where she felt that she should actually cycle on her own and produce eggs. But the problem is that she dropped infertile eggs. Luckily they passed through, because there's a thing with colubrids specifically that they have a tendency to where if they self-cycle on their own and lay infertile eggs, they have a much higher likelihood of getting egg-bound than if you had a male that could get his stuff in there to really kind of help those along, really helps develop the eggs. They end up being able to pass much more easily than the fertile eggs, where they end up getting stuck often. And we've actually lost several colubrids to that, and a lot of people have also experienced that as well. So thankfully, she passed it, doing really good. Now she's going to get another year to get a little bit bigger, and then she will hopefully be producing some very, very large babies, where the babies will pop out eating basically small adult mice. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. A little bit of a shorter one, but I want to talk about just this absolutely amazing, amazing snake, Hopi here, who, for what a lot of people have told me, that the pine snakes, when it comes to a lot of their temperaments, you start with the northern pine snakes, and then as you work your way south, they just get progressively more grumpy. So you have the northern pines, and then you move down to the black pines, and then into the Louisiana pines, the southern pines, and the two different Mexican pine snakes. And then the Jani, the Mexican pine snakes, not the northern Mexican pine snakes, the Depi, Depi, there we go, are the worst of them, and then the Norse being the most placid. And I can say without a doubt that Hopi here, other than when she thinks she's being fed, which is pretty good, she's usually good at discerning what the difference is between that. She's an absolutely amazing animal. She's come with me to multiple education events, at large reptile shows, at private little events, all sorts of really, really cool stuff. So we absolutely love Hopi. And again, her boyfriend, not so much, but that's okay. Hopefully they inherit a bit of her personality too. So again, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Hope you got to see a really fun and interesting snake. She's been highlighted a number of times. I just always really love to show off this absolutely amazing and beautiful snake, especially right after she has a nice, good, clean shed. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you want to see the rest of my animals, make sure to check out the playlist that's right here at the end of all these different videos. Hope you're having a great day, and we will check you next time.